Okay, so our next technique is going to carry us up along the costal margins of the ribs, along the sternum, and even up onto the collarbone. I call this the I technique because by the time you've finished it on both sides, it looks like the capital letter I. So I'll do it on this side, and then we'll have Susan do it with Sunshine on the other side. Again, I like having both hands on the body, even though you're doing the technique with one hand. I'm going right along the bottom of the ribs here. I'm not really tucking in under the ribs. That would make her feel a little insecure, perhaps. So I'm going right along the bottom of the ribs. I'm being quite gentle with the ribs, but I'm being fairly insistent about bringing the tissue up and in along the costal margins of the ribs with me. And this time I am going to go under the edge of the bra, right along the sternum. If you feel you need to talk to the client beforehand about the fact that you're invading their space, you can. If you're using draping with this, you have to figure that one out, because I usually work in underwear. But if your intention is clear of going up here along the edge of the sternum, you can usually go up here an inch or two without causing any distress. And with these modern sports bras, a lot of territory gets covered, so I usually, to provide a continuity, bring the bra down, and then I'm bringing my fingers up right along the sternochondral margins, where the ribs meet the sternum. So I could be right in the middle of the sternum, but I'm often right out on the edge. And when you get to this top of the sternum here, oh, I know this isn't strictly part of the superficial front line, but all of this fascia really is one and the same. So I'm going out along the edge of the clavicle. Let me try that again so you can see it, right along the under edge of the clavicle. Yeah, you can sit or kneel, that's great. So just bring your hands underneath the ribs with your fingers that way, and support the outside of the ribs, so that's right. Now you're just going to bring the tissue up along the ribs towards her midline like that, following the edge of the subcostal margin. Yep. Does that give some of the same feeling?
Yeah, go a little bit slower.
All right, so let's start that again. Let's have you just come down here and start that again. And what I want you to feel for is the tissue there it goes. Is the tissue melting in front of you? Okay, so you have to go at the rate that tissue softens, liquefies in front of you. Can you feel it?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And now your hand just rolls over towards the palms of the fingers, the pad side of the fingers. Yeah, you can keep that in there too. And now you're just going to bring that tissue up. You feel the sternum, breastbone in there? You're just going to go right up along the breastbone. Just bringing the bra down a couple of inches. You can catch up to where you was. Yeah, a little more central, right? Yeah, right along the edge of, that's it, right along the edge of the sternum. And just, nope, stay nice and slow so she'll melt. That's it. Come up along. And out. How'd that feel?
Good.
How'd that feel to you?
It felt really awkward at first, but once my hand got the idea of the contour that it was following.
So see what you've done here is...
Nervousness.
Forgot your nervousness, yeah, that's great. So you followed the contour of the front of the ribs all the way up the sternum, and then a little bit, and I sometimes use my knuckle for this, right out under the collarbone. If somebody's really held in across the front, no, that's not you. If somebody's really held in across the front, you can go in here and even with a knuckle, because that really takes the fingernails out of it, but it also makes it a little more strong.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me like some people are really tight under the collarbone and some people are really not tight.
Yep.
Like Sunshine.
So that's very much a good point that you make, because we want to alter these techniques with what you find. If you don't have to do it 3 times under the collarbone if that area is loose, but if that area is really tight, you might repeat this piece of it more times, or next session, or whatever is necessary to help them. Okay, so I thought we would take a small variation here, since Bill has come in and represents the male of the species, and not only the male of the species, but the hirsute. And it's a little bit more difficult to do this kind of myofascial stretching when you're doing it on top of body hair. And short of asking your client to shave, there are 2 things you can do. One is to use lotion, not oil, again, but lotion. And the second part of that is that when you come in to work with the body, you do not, as we did in the other cases, travel over the skin, because when you're traveling over the skin, you are pulling it with you. So here you can take the skin, bring it down, go in and engage with the level that you want to engage with, and bring it up to the degree that the skin will let you. Then you can go up an inch or so, depending on the mobility of the skin, come down, take a hold of the fascia underneath the skin, and we're using the same thing here. We're looking for how fast is that fascia melting. I'm right here at the edge between where the sternum is and where the ribs come in, and I'm just going to take the skin, pull it down, engage my fingers in, and bring the skin and my fingers up through that fascia to the limits of what the skin can comfortably take, and then once again bring the skin down and come up. It takes a little longer to do it this way, but it is definitely worthwhile in terms of the patient's comfort and the results. If you simply try doing what we were doing before, you're really going to give the person... What does that feel like to you?
Oh, you could just pull it out.
Okay, no, we won't do that anymore. So if I were doing this same, what I call the eye move, this move along the subcostal angle of the ribs and up along the, I can't think when I'm working, up along the sternum, then I might do that part moving along the skin, but then this part I could do in the manner that we just did. And the same thing when I got up here, I would move within what the skin would allow me, take some more skin, move within what the skin would allow me, take some more skin, move within what the skin would allow me. Okay? It brings up another variation while we're here, because as I come up on these ribs with Bill, what I feel is that right across this line and a little bit above it, there's a place where the ribs, where they come into the sternum, feel quite stuck or ungiving just at this moment. So I'm going to put one set of fingers on the front of his ribs, and yeah, just roll over this way just for a sec, and another set of fingers right in the back behind. I know this is not strictly part of the superficial front line, but look at the relationship here through the ribs. If you can let your right arm relax, Bill, and just let it fall on mine, it's great. Okay, now if you breathe right in here, yeah, that's it. I don't think I said this when we were doing the other version of this with the ladies, but the action of breathing is the movement. You remember in the legs we were using the foot up and down and the knee up and down. Well, when we're up here in the torso, we don't need to ask for movement so specifically, because the movement of breathing provides that movement. And by just sitting here with these joints, or more properly, with the tissue that overlays the joints, and connected to where the ribs connect in back with the fingers of my right hand, we can just let this melt. Perhaps you can see the difference in the angle with which his two shoulders are coming out of the neck after we did releasing the ribs on this one side. It really made a difference to his shoulder position. Does it feel any different to you, Bill, from side to side? Can you describe that at all?
Right shoulder feels as though it's farther back.
Closer to the table, meaning?
Closer to the table, more relaxed. Opened up.
All right, well, let's see if we can do something similar with this side. Okay, come on back. Back hand is pulling down, and my front hand is freeing the sternocondral joints, the sternocostal joints, where the ribs come into. So I'm not right in the middle of the sternum, I'm just right off to the side of the sternum. And if I'm doing anything with that tissue, I'm bringing it up. And what's that?
Well, it just feels as though the left one's come back as well. Surprise!